Hey guys, it's the Loud Guys. Today we are going to watch 16 oddities of US geography. So we have seen a lot of videos about US geography, like how US geography is OP. Like it is the best one because it is not surrounded by any rivals or enemies, and also it cannot be attacked from any sides. And it is and it also has like Canada and Mexico on the border, and like it has friendly relations to both of them, and none of them will ever attack them. So it is in a very good position as far as geography is concerned. And also we saw what inside US is like. Inside US has all this oil and everything, and then they have that Mississippi River flowing through. So everything we read about it, but now there is one video, like it is about the oddities of US geography. So what is the odd things, and what are the things that might make us like, oh really? So let's see what will there in this video.
And seriously, I'm so much excited to watch this video. And we from past videos we got to know that people of the America feels that they feel so safe in the America, because we all know that how powerful the America is. That's the reason why people feel so safe in their country. And we all know that it is not very easy to defeat America. Even the Russia or the China will, if in future they're gonna unite, so damn sure it is then definitely it is not going to be an one-sided war. Maybe after all that kind of unity, still America could win the war. So that's the reason why people feel so much safer in the America. And yeah, I'm so much excited to know the unusual things of thing of the geography of the America. And to be honest, we are not that much familiar of this subject. So yeah, let's watch this video.
I am also like very interested to know all the oddities. So let's watch this video.
This is a huge country, but a lot of it follows kind of a uniform or predictable geography, but there are several places in this country that really don't follow the rules. Some of these are pretty odd, some are kind of quirky, and some are just kind of like, really kind of stuff. And you may have heard of some of these, you might be familiar with some of this stuff, and others you might not have heard of. And this isn't a countdown. I'm not going to be like, oh, this one's crazier than the next one kind of thing. It was just kind of going over some unique aspects of American geography.
Yeah.
I live in Tennessee, so I'm going to start off with one about Tennessee. It's one of the strangest shaped states in the country. And one of the quirks about the state is that if there were two people in Bristol at the eastern end of the state, one started driving north toward Detroit, one started driving west towards Memphis, the one driving north would be in Canada before the one driving west would be in Memphis. So just with how wide the state is, it's not a huge state in terms of total area, but because of the strange shape, it really does go really far east to west.
Oh.
And that's a good
nice.
segue to the second one, and that's if you are in Detroit and you want to go to Canada, you'll have to drive south. The southwestern corner of Ontario extends to kind of just southeast of Michigan. So if you want to head to the Great White North from Detroit, you got to head south. Something else that's quirky is that the highest point in the contiguous U.S. is Mount Whitney at over 14,400 feet. And the lowest point in the U.S. is Badwater Basin in Death Valley National Park, which is almost 300 feet below sea level. And why this is so quirky is that they are 85 miles apart from each other. So in a country that's 3,000 miles wide, the highest and lowest points are 85 miles apart.
Wow.
That's pretty quirky. The next few are based upon the shape of the country. So the coastlines aren't directly north-south, and the peninsulas don't extend the exact same distance. So there are some kind of, kind of things about the latitude and longitude that you might not be aware of. One is if you're going to start in San Diego, California, right on the Mexican border, and then drive east on a line of latitude, you'll end up on the East Coast in Charleston, South Carolina. I think a lot of folks think that San Diego, being on the border is going to be much further south, maybe as far as Jacksonville, Florida, but no, it's latitude per latitude is right even with Charleston, South Carolina.
Okay.
Similarly, deep South Texas extends almost as far south as South Florida. So most people know Florida for being, subtropical. Miami's way down there, but a lot of folks don't know that deep South Texas extends just about as far. The Mexican border right around Brownsville, you follow a line of latitude east, you're going to end up in Miami. So Florida does extend a little bit further south than that, but South Texas is every bit as subtropical as South Florida is. And the third kind of quirk based on the shape of the country is that Reno, Nevada is further west than Los Angeles. So you think of Reno, it's up in the mountains, it's near Lake Tahoe, it's pretty far inland, and Los Angeles is sitting right there on the coast, but longitude-wise, Reno is further west than LA. My favorite naming oddity in American geography is West St. Paul, Minnesota. Why this is so funny is that it's southeast of St. Paul. And it's not like it's a case where It was originally founded, the historic part of St. Paul was east there, and it just developed west. No, the West St. Paul, when it was founded, it was already south of the historic district.
So why
of
was
St.
it
Paul,
named
now it's
West?
southeast of the city. So from a naming perspective, I think it's pretty hilarious. A couple of placement oddities in the U.S. are that there are two places that are part of U.S. states, but you have to drive through Canada to get to them. One of them is called the Northwest Angle in Minnesota, and this is, an area is part of Minnesota, but in order to get there by road, you have to drive through Manitoba to get to it.
So
And
to
the
get a
other is
visa?
Point Roberts, Washington, and in order to get to it by road, you have to drive through British Columbia. It's a lot closer to Vancouver, much more culturally tied to British Columbia than it is to Washington. So those are two pretty unique places in the U.S. that are really kind of more Canadian, but they are under the
So
U.S.
you get a
jurisdiction.
visa and then you go to
And
this
because I
place?
like the word discontiguous, I'm going to use that as a segue into this next quirk, and that is that there are two discontiguous counties in the U.S. Well, one of them is technically a parish in Louisiana, but that's the same as a county. So St. Martin Parish in Louisiana is discontiguous. There are two different parts of it. So in order to stay in that same parish, you have to drive through another one to get to it. And the other one is Norfolk County in Massachusetts, which is suburbs of Boston. So again, to say Norfolk County, you have to
Why?
drive through a different county to get to it. So those are the two discontiguous county parishes in the U.S. The next has to do.
This is very strange for me because normally we see counties or towns or cities or states that have land border together and like they are one land. That is how like they are differentiated. Like you can just name them another thing or they can join with the one they are adjoining with. Why like you have to like keep this town together with that? So is there a history about it or was it acquired or something like that? I don't know.
Has to do with city and county nomenclature and how that affects jurisdiction. And there are some pretty unique ones in the U.S. Virginia is the only state in the country that has cities and counties that are completely separate jurisdictions. The vast majority of Americans live in a city that is also a part of a county. So, for example, I live in Chattanooga, Tennessee, which is part of Hamilton County. And before that, I lived in Monterey, California, which is part of Monterey County. But in Virginia, things are a lot different. So they'll have a city that is not within a county. So, for example, you have Roanoke. So you can live in the city of Roanoke, but you don't live in a county at all. You don't live in Roanoke County. The two are completely separate jurisdictions, and there's no other state that does that. The only other
Why?
places in the U.S. that do that are St. Louis and Baltimore. So these are two places that are cities, the city of St. Louis and the city of Baltimore, but they're not part of St. Louis County or Baltimore County. But this is not something that is statewide with Missouri and Maryland. So again, Virginia is the only one that does that kind of weird thing with cities and counties being separate. And there are 4 cities in the U.S. that are both cities and counties at the same time. So the jurisdiction is the exact same thing. Those are San Francisco, Philadelphia, Denver, and Broomfield, Colorado. So these 4 are the city and counties, the exact same jurisdiction. So the city boundaries are the same as the county boundaries. And these are the only 4 like this in the U.S. The next has to do with metropolitan areas and how they're defined. And most folks know how the metro area populations are calculated because you can't just say the central city of an area is the entire population because say you live in Atlanta, it's not just Fulton County, it's also Gwinnett and DeKalb and Cobb and Clayton and Forsyth and all the other suburban counties. Or if you live in Houston, it's it's not just Harris County, it's also Brazoria and Fort Bend and Galveston County. So that's how every metropolitan area in the country is calculated. San Diego, California is unique and it's the only metropolitan area with a population greater than 1 million in which the metropolitan area is defined as a singular county. So San Diego County is the San Diego metropolitan area with about 3.1 million people. There are no suburban counties that add on to the metropolitan area in San Diego. The other really unique one is Providence, Rhode Island. It's the only metropolitan area with a population greater than 1 million in which the metropolitan area is a state. So the state of Rhode Island is the Providence metropolitan area, and that's the only one in the country that's like that. And because I love me some segues, I'm going to use it.
Why is there not a uniformity out there? Like there are some counties, then they don't have those cities inside them. Then there are cities who are counties itself. Then there are some counties that are state itself. Why is there isn't a uniformity? Like okay, these are the states and these are the these are the counties and these are the cities and these are the districts and everything. There should be a uniformity out there. Like why everybody is like can make a county or a state out there and like it because of like they were that before or like why not? Do let us know that in the comment section below because this is actually a very big oddity. You cannot like see this in any place in this world because like everywhere else they just make sure okay it is the uniform structure like okay the state and then city or the capital and then everything else. So This is something very strange in US.
And for me, the most cool part is.
I mean, you had discussion about metropolitan.
And for me, the most cool part is that the south and the north is very close to each other because of the because this country is so large. So that's the very cool thing for me.
Discussion about metropolitan areas to go into my next work about Chicago. Think about how big Chicago is. It is huge. It's the third biggest city in the country. Think about the metropolitan area's footprint. I mean, you got Cook County and Lake and DuPage and Will and Kendall and McHenry. And you got the northwestern corner of Indiana and Lake and Porter counties. And it's enormous. There are 9 million people that live in the metropolitan Chicago area. And if you live there, you're like, wow, we live in an enormous city. Because you do. But New York and LA are twice as big. So for as big as you think Chicago is, at 9 million people, there are over 18 million in LA and over 20 million in New York. So again, Chicago.
Because I think so all the
huge,
immigrants
but
come to New
way,
York
way,
first.
Way smaller than either New York or LA. And I'm going to keep the Segway train rolling as I go on comparing metropolitan areas. I'm going to compare Toronto to American cities.
Oh.
This isn't really a quirk or an oddity, it's just more of an interesting fact. And most people know that Toronto is the biggest city in Canada. The metropolitan area for Toronto is about 5.8 million people. And where would that rank in the U.S.? Well, it'd be 9th. So it'd just be smaller than the Houston, Galveston Bay metro area and just bigger than the Miami, Fort Lauderdale metro area. So if you're wondering where the biggest city in Canada would rank in the U.S., it'd be 9th.
A lot of people
One of
in
my
US.
favorite ones is based upon signage and topography. If you've driven in the eastern U.S., you might be very familiar with this one. Interstates 81 and 77 are both north-south oriented interstates that come together in southwestern Virginia and are the same highway for a short stretch. And that's pretty common throughout the U.S. There are portions of Indiana and Ohio where interstates 80 and 90 are the same, and there are portions of Pennsylvania where interstates 70 and 76 are the same. But so that's not unique. But what is unique is in southwestern Virginia, if you're going north on 77, when they merge, you'll be also going south on 81 or vice versa. And when you first see the sign, you're like, what on earth? How is this possible?
Yes.
That's, just
Yeah.
some vandal just making a joke. But
You're going
it's
north
actually because
and you're going
at
south
this
also.
stretch, they're going
This is
east-west.
so
So if you're going
weird
north on
thing.
77, when you hit the interchange, you start going west. If you're going north on I-81, hit the interchange, start going east. So I don't know. I think it's kind of a quirky, feature based on topography. But see those signs? I think it is pretty funny.
Yeah, it is.
The last two I wanted to mention are based on physical geography, and I've mentioned both of these in other videos. That's why I wanted to save these for last. The first is that the two biggest earthquakes in U.S. recorded history outside of Alaska have been in Missouri and South Carolina. So you think of the biggest earthquakes, you're going to think of the West Coast first for obvious reasons, but the two biggest ones have been back east. In the 19th century, there were huge earthquakes in southeastern Missouri and in Charleston, South Carolina, and these places still have a very large earthquake risk, so they have to be careful there. But it's kind of interesting to think that the two biggest earthquakes outside of Alaska have been in Missouri and South Carolina.
Oh.
And the last one that I'm going to mention is just how freaking empty central Nevada is. And, there are so few people that live in just this enormous area. So you can fit the entire state of Maine or South Carolina into this part of central Nevada. And there's a grand total of 100,000 people that live in an entire area. Actually, less than that, really. But you think about how big Maine and South Carolina are. Can you imagine only having
The loneliest road in America. Oh.
Central Nevada is just an enormous area with very, very few people.
Loneliest
So that's
road.
my list of geographic oddities and quirks in the U.S. and
The loneliest road in America. Oh my god. I would really like to drive through that road and feel okay, how I would like to ask the road, how do you feel if you're so lonely and nobody travels on you? Come to India, you will see the roads getting berated and every day thousands of people traveling on it. So yes, but the thing was, it was a hilarious video because there were many oddities. Okay, some were very crazy. Okay, you are going on a north interstate and south interstate. When they interchange, then you are going both north and south. So it was very strange for me. And then there was this one state where it was such a flat state. The top was also straight and the end was also, and I've seen that even the US boundary is also very flat. I don't know how did you do that, but yes, US and Canada border is so flat. Normally you see borders are crazy. There are so jagged lines and this and that because always you're fighting with the another country. In India we do so because we have Pakistan on one side, China on the other side, and we still have all the border issues. So continuously that goes on. But yes, with America you see there is a straight line that it was just a person with a ruler just went there and just did a line there, and that's how everybody like agreed, okay, like this is our border. So that's how cool it is. And like there are many oddities in US geography, and I love this video.
Seriously, I also enjoyed this video so much. There were, many things which was very shocking for me, and it was also very strange that, literally this video was so strange for me when they said that, if you he talked about the road, and he said that if you want to go into the south, then you will also, reach in the north. So that thing was, very strange for me, and I was like, that's so cool, man. That is it doesn't happen in India. If you go in south, then you will also you go in the south only, and if you go in the north, you go in the north. So it's not like that. So that was very, cool thing for me. And second, literally that thing which shook me was when he talked about the state. He said that he said that this state is very large, geographic. He said that this state is very large by geography, but here people live very few people, because, and it felt it felt that it is a desert kind of state, and now I didn't remember the name of it. So that was also, very weird for me. And if we talk about India, so in India there are many, desert place. Like if you go in the Rajasthan, so there are many places where people don't live because of the desert and because of the temperature. So yeah, so that thing was very similar to India. But what I really like about the America is that the border in America is safer as compared to India, because India is surrounded by the Pakistan, Nepal. If we talk about the India and Nepal, so it is very, the borders are on the safer side. But if we talk about the Pakistan and India, so it is not that much, safe. So yeah, I really enjoyed this video, and this was so informative video for me.
Yes, actually, and the thing was, this was a very informative and a very fun video to watch. We like to watch more. So what did you guys feel about it? Do let us know in the comment section below. So do like, share, and
Subscribe.
bye.